I mentioned in my Deltarune tutorial the difference between the two main aspect ratios seen in Undertale and Deltarune animating, those being 16:9, also known as widescreen, and 4:3, full screen. I'm in the minority of this divide, preferring to animate using 4:3, as that's the aspect ratio that both Undertale and Deltarune use, likely being chosen to pay respect to games of the era Undertale was inspired by, the most notable of which, of course, being the Super Nintendo's Earthbound. For multiple years now, I've just achieved 4:3 by selecting it when creating a project. Simple and easy, right? Well, that's where the problems start. When you just use KineMaster's option to create a video in 4:3, you might happen to notice that there are no black bars on the left or right of the screen, which is common when watching a 4:3 video on a platform that uses widescreen, like YouTube. This doesn't really seem like a problem. When watching a 4:3 video in windowed mode, YouTube automatically generates the black bars that were missing in editing. The problem is when you use full screen, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say most people watch videos while in full screen. The image appears stretched and, for lack of a better descriptor, blurry. This really isn't so bad if it's being watched on a smaller device like a phone, because the screen's pretty small as is. But from personal experience watching my own animations, if you watch a base 4:3 animation full screened on a larger screen, like if it's on a tablet or maybe even a TV if yours is new enough to be able to connect to YouTube, this downside gets much more noticeable. Some changes have to be made to retain the quality of 4:3 work while being projected on a larger screen. It's for this reason that when Undertale was ported to consoles like the Switch, these little charming art pieces were added to represent the borders of the screen, allowing the game to retain its 4:3 crop. My new style going forward will recreate this exact setup using the 16:9 aspect ratio in KineMaster, which is what I'll be showing you today. Now, it's almost certainly going to sound weird and counterproductive to use 16:9 when I've spent the entire video thus far explaining why I prefer 4:3, but bear with me here. I genuinely think this is a better way to accurately recreate Undertale's proper aspect ratio without compromising quality on larger screens. With my thesis stated, I say we get into the... Once you've created a project in 16:9, you'll want to select this icon depicting a shop to go to the KineMaster Asset Store. Don't worry, nothing here costs money, you don't need KineMaster Premium for this. Once there, scroll down to the categories listed on the left side of the screen and find Frames. Click on it. Now, search for the pack Cinematic Frames. Download it. Once you've done this, you'll return to the editing timeline. Here, select Layers, followed by Stickers. This is where your newly downloaded asset will be. Find the frame for 4:3 and bring it into the canvas by tapping on it. The layer should automatically be selected at this point, but if it's not, select it. Now, choose to transform and scroll down to the bottom, finding and selecting Fit, instantly snapping your new layer to all four corners of the screen. That's the crop done, but before we call it quits, I'd advise turning your video's background to a different color, such as white to see where your corners are. If there's any glitches, such as the small white line on the right side of the screen, just cover it with a black rectangle. Another thing I'd recommend is selecting your layer once again and enabling Outline. Make sure it's a different color from the crop itself, and in the spirit of Undertale, I'd say choose white. That way, when you're setting up your UI and character sprites, you don't accidentally end up putting them off screen. One last thing I'll mention before we wrap things up, since it'll be a part of my animating style going into the future, is how this method can be used with your watermark, if you so choose to include one, that is. The empty space provided can be used in very creative ways given a thought, and there's a lot of potential to be had in other aspects of your animation. For example, you can have two mirrored watermarks facing each other like seen here, or have smaller horizontal watermarks lining the sides of the screen like in this example. You can really play around with this, so I'd recommend giving it a shot. One other thing, is that even with your watermarks placed on the sides, I would still heavily recommend placing a watermark in the center, or somewhere in the actual frame. The whole point of a watermark is to stop content theft, or otherwise someone trying to pass off something you made as their own work, and someone with malicious intentions could easily crop out the watermarks on the sides or just cover them with black bars. So definitely place one on the actual animation just to be safe. That's it for now. If you want to be even more faithful to the console ports of Undertale, all the border art used in-game is available on the Spiders Resources website, which will be linked in the description. The borders for Deltarune will also have a link to them. Any questions are welcome below. And with that, I relinquish.